You're listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
We're with Claude Lamb on Chicago Stories. Claude used to be homeless. He's now not only got a roof over his head, but he's on his way to getting a degree from Olive Harvey. And Claude, I want to thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here, sir.
It's an honor to talk to you. So tell me and tell everybody a little about how not only how we came about, because we helped a little, but more importantly, I think would be interesting to people is give them the backstory of how you became homeless. You weren't always homeless, and then what led you to making the decision to get out of that context?
What led to my homelessness was stupidity. I mean, I don't know no other way to put it. I can't blame anybody. I was making good money, but I was spending it at the time what I thought was wisely on good liquor, fast women in the casino. And
all in that order?
And that, I don't know if it was in that order, they were all grouped together, and it was like that commercial where you see the elevator door open and the guy just walks into a brick wall. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. Just one day, my engine went out on my car. I didn't have the money to get my car fixed. Mm-hmm. I took the money I had and I tried to go to the casino to get the money to fix my car, and boom, I didn't have anything. I was out on the street. I didn't have any place to go, so I went down to Mercy Hospital and complained that I was sick, and being my age, they let me in. Mm-hmm. After 2 days, they told me I had to leave. Mm-hmm. So I had $10 in my pocket, and I was thinking either I'm going to buy a fifth of liquor and go sit on the lake and fall in the lake, or I'm going to go over to Pacific Garden Mission. And since I couldn't swim, falling in the lake didn't impress me. So
you still had your wits about you.
Yeah, thank God. So I went to Pacific Garden Mission, and the first day I was there, I wrote a letter to you. Mm-hmm. And I explained to you that I was a veteran, how I was homeless, that it wasn't nobody's fault that I was homeless, but I didn't want to be homeless. And the next day I came down to City Hall, and just as I got to City Hall, I was sitting on the steps, and you walked past. And I tried to give you the letter, and your bodyguards waved me off. And your assistant, Zach, he asked me what was the problem. I told him, and I gave him the letter. Mm-hmm. And he said that, okay, well, I'll get back to you. And, you hear that sometimes, but you don't really expect it. Mm-hmm. But that evening, by 5:30, Zach called me. He said, look, I read the letter. I talked with the mayor. He said, we're going to see what we can do to get you out of this. He said, it's not something that's going to be done overnight. He said, regardless of what you believe, the mayor doesn't just dictate to other departments what they can do. Mm-hmm. So he said, but I can feel pretty sure we'll have you out of there in about 10 days. Mm-hmm. On the 8th day, they got me out of there. They took me to a place called Safe Haven. Yeah. I went to Safe Haven, and Safe Haven is a place that gives you, like Pacific Garden Mission, they give you 3 square meals, a place to sleep.
Safe Haven's a safe place, man.
Yes, but if you don't have motivation to really get out, you can just stay there. And a lot of people, they float from shelter to shelter. So my case...
Your key thing, I don't want to interrupt, but your key thing is, I want to come back to it, is you got to have some motivation. You got to have a desire to...
Well, to me, homeless is twofold. First is physical, and then is mental. Mm-hmm. The physical part, a lot of people, they have they're ill or something like that. But the mental part is that you've got to want to do something for yourself. And, I think a lot of it is you've just got to get to the point where you say, this is my fault. I did it. I can't blame nobody. But, it's like your house on fire and your kids inside. You're not worried about who started the fire. You're just interested in saving them. Right. So I decided I wanted to save myself. Mm-hmm. So I went out and I didn't rely on my case managers to get me out of being homeless. I went around. I found me a place. I found a great place, which is St. Leo's residence for men. It's a veterans place. I mean, they're great staff and everything. I never knew about computers, but I wasn't just gonna sit around there, so I went into the computer room and that made me want to go back to school. So I went to school, and I want you to know I hadn't been to school in 55 years. And no one in my family had ever graduated from college or ever attended college. And I had dropped out of high school to go into the Air Force. So I had my GED, I went to school, I finished my summer semester, I took 2 classes, I got an A in both classes, which I am.
Congratulations,
thank
man.
you, and I'm very proud of that. And like I say, they have a great support. I'm fortunate that I met people all along the way that were reaching out to me, but I would say to anybody that's homeless, you've got to show people that you don't want to be homeless, you know. I did a lot of research. I found out next to Houston, Chicago is, I believe, the second city with the less homelessness for veterans. I found out that Chicago has.
I'm glad you're saying it, because if I said it, people would question
No,
that.
I mean, I read a lot. I've been into politics, and Chicago has placed, I believe, over 2,600 veterans into
Right.
from being homeless. Not only that, Chicago works with different agencies. There are a lot of agencies that if you're homeless, people will help you. But a lot of this, I mean, I'm 72 years old, and maybe this is not politically correct to say, but you know, it's just so many young people that depend on everybody and blame everybody for something and just trying to do something for themselves.
It's okay, you can say that. There's some of that's true. So, what years did you serve in the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force for 2 years. My mother got sick, and so I got an early out, and I came out to help take care of my mom. Oh, I was in the service from 9 March 62 to 1 November 63.
So
I got an honorable discharge.
Where were you based?
I went into the service at Lackland Air Force Base. I took my tech training at Greenville Air Force Base in Mississippi. Then I went over to Adana, Turkey, and I served over there. I got discharged right
62 through 63?
It was the Air Force is a 4-year term, but like I say, I got discharged for humanitarian, and I got an honorable discharge, which is one of the proudest pieces of paper that I have, because you know, even at that time, I mean, you know, there was a lot of racial discrimination going on back in the early 60s, but I love America. I mean, with all its faults, I've traveled not everywhere around the world, but this is by far the best place to live.
I'm 100% with you, man.
By far.
We got our challenges, we got our problems,
right?
But nobody else measures up.
But either you're gonna become part of the solution, or you're gonna stay part of the problem.
Where you? You're a philosopher too. Where'd you grow up in the city?
Oakdale Gardens.
And where'd you go to school?
Carver High School.
Carver.
One of the greatest influences in my life was my high school basketball coach, Larry Hawkins.
Really?
Yes. One of the greatest influences.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because he taught you how to be a man. He didn't, you know, you had to reach his level to play on the team. You had to keep your grades up. You had to go to your classes and everything.
So he set standards you had to meet.
And you had to meet him. Wasn't no in between. And he was the boss. You know, it's but if I may say so, where do I get a lot of my philosophy from? Khalil Gibran, The Prophet. I think that's the greatest book ever.
Which one?
The Prophet.
The Prophet?
By Khalil Gibran, yes.
So wait a second, I want to go. I mean, I think one of the big things we got to help our kids with is what you just said. You gave it to your basketball coach, whether it's a teacher, a basketball coach, or, you know, there's usually somebody along your life, mainly your parents, but not limited to, that really does influence the choices you're going to make, and kind of gives you helps you kind of sharpen your value system, I think.
I think me personally, I think we've become too politically correct. I mean, when I was coming up, if the teacher said something and your parents had to go to school, you was automatically wrong. If the teacher was wrong, then you let your parent correct the teacher. Nowadays, you get children. I mean, you know, but it's difficult. Raising kids is hard, but it's the most rewarding experience you could ever have.
Listen, I've always said this. You happen to be talking to me on the week in which we dropped our daughter off at college, middle one. We got one left. She's a rising senior, and I have a son at UCLA. It is the hardest thing you do. But I look at everything I went through, and Amy and I went through for Alana and Zach. But to see the milestones of where they're becoming young adults today, making their judgments. I just talked to both of them this morning. It is the most emotionally rewarding feeling you can have when you've gotten your kids to a place. They're adults, they're making decisions for themselves, and you think they're making, when they face kind of, I wouldn't say adversity, but a choice, and in the end of the day, they make the right choice, and you don't have to be there to do it.
And I don't think there's been a milestone in my kids' life that they reach where I didn't tear up. You know, when I have a grandson that I raised till he was 13, him and his sister, till they were 13, 11 by myself. I was single. And I had to teach him that it's okay to cry. Not to wake up every morning and just boo-hoo, but there's nothing wrong with being emotional. I got 3 daughters, I got 5 grandkids, I got 3 great-grandkids.
3 daughters?
3 daughters, all by different moms, but they're all sisters. I don't believe in that. This is my half-sister, this is my step-sister. They're all sisters, they all get along, they all love each other. And
beyond the 3 sisters, 3 daughters you've raised, how many grandchildren?
2.
That you took into your house?
Yes.
How they doing?
My granddaughter finished college, my grandson.
Congratulations.
My grandson is ironic, now he's a single father raising his 2 kids. So when
he's being taken care of.
Yeah, and when I tell him I'm proud of him, he said, well, I had a good example. So of course that makes me glow. And when he graduated from high school, he wrote a hero paper, and he wrote a hero paper about me, and I had about 1,000 copies made and gave them to everybody I could see.
Let me ask you a question. What I'm trying to do, I think would be helpful, not just to me, but you mentioned, put, if you can, if it's not too painful, back to that moment where you said, I got some liquor and I can sit by the edge of the lake. Try to get, what was running through your head, and how did you decide not to do that, besides the fact that you've obviously then explained to us that Larry never taught you how to swim besides being a basketball coach.
Well, you know.
I mean, what were you thinking?
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
I think when you get homeless, it's like you hit rock bottom. You're afraid to. It's like what said, it's like being on drugs. You have to come to grips with it that you are homeless, because a lot of people can't come to grips. They deny that they're homeless, and it's one thing I found out: when you're homeless, you're friendless.
When you're homeless, you're friendless. What do you mean by that?
Friends disappear.
People that you rely on.
People that you rely on. Maybe it's because of something that I did, because I'm a pretty strong-willed person. I say what's on my mind, but when I reached rock bottom, there was nobody to reach out to me, and these were people that knew this here. But like I said, I didn't contemplate going over there, sitting on rocks and drinking some liquor and falling in the lake, but the thought crossed my mind. But then, my mom didn't raise me that way, so.
So you made a decision. You got Safe Haven, you got Mercy, you got other places you relied on.
Yeah.
You got a note that we read.
Well, I mean, let me tell you. I wrote a letter to 2 mayors. I wrote a letter to Jane Byrne and asked her for a job, and Jane Byrne gave me a job.
Okay.
I wrote a letter to
those days are over. We can't do that no more.
I know, I understand that, but I mean.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
But I wrote a letter to you, and I got a response, so that within itself makes me feel good that that 2 for 2.
Yeah.
You know. But it also shows me that you are a mayor, you are human, and let me tell you something. You know, I mean, in this day and age, I don't know if I can say this or not, but
you've already crossed the line of politically correct. Well,
you are the person for this time, for all of the problems that's going on in the city today. You are handling them pretty well, and you're trying to please a whole diverse city.
Well, look, I think it's like you said. I mean, I think we have a great city. We got our challenges, but we should never underestimate. I've been around the world. This is an unbelievable city with a lot of strengths. So tell me, give me where Claude is going to be in the next 5 years. What do you want to get done? Next 10 years? What do you want to do? What?
I want to work with seniors. I want to work with seniors because having been there, I think I can easily relate to them. You know, I can see their problem. I can tell. You know, a lot of times you just don't need somebody to just pat you on your back and feel sorry for you. You need somebody to just look you in the eye and say, okay, look, you're in this here situation. How are you going to get out of this here situation? And you need to just go ahead. A lot of, like at St. Leo's where I'm at, we've got a staff there from the property manager down to the office manager and case managers. They give you all of the encouragement in the world. You can go and talk to them at any time of the day. So I've had a great support system, and I would like to think I had a great support system. I mean, it's there, but it's like that water. If I don't drink it, it's not going to leave the glass. So if you've got a support system out there, and
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why is it, and I'm not questioning you, but I want to ask a question.
No problem.
No, I mean, you know, because I think I listened to you, Claude. I wonder, would you be interested in helping kids? Because I think about what you said about your basketball coach who made a man of you. And I think of all the challenges I have that we just talked about the city. And I think our kids could gain a lot by having.
Go ahead.
I'm not against grandma and grandpa getting some help. I like their grandchildren to get a lot.
See, that's why I'm taking up child development, because the children are the future. You know, good thing my granddaddy used to say was, you can't plant a mustard seed and go out there in the morning looking for a watermelon. They don't work like that, you know. So, you know, whatever you plant, and when you work with kids, they're so honest.
Here's my theory.
What?
We not so much the city, but it's true about the city, but it's the country. We have lost what I think is true about my parents and before, which is the willingness to sacrifice and struggle so your kids could be better. And now there's just no sense of that kind of commitment to another, not just your children, but another generation.
Well, you don't know what sacrifice is until you have kids. Because when you have kids, your wants go to the right because their needs come first. See, my theory is that a child
if you're a good parent.
Right, but I think a child should have everything that it needs and some of the things that it wants. But you know, it's difficult, but...
And also knowing the difference between the need and the want.
Right, yeah, right. But you know, I get along with, like I say, in school, without a doubt. I mean, at 72, I'm almost the youngest one in every class. But I've been in class with 18, 19 years, and we have a good rapport and everything. I talk to them. If I see them doing something wrong, I'll tell them that's stupid. You know, they listen to me. They might tell me something that they don't like about me, but we talk back and forth, and that's how you learn something.
How much more time you got before you get your degree?
2 years.
And then we're going to go to do child psychology, child development?
I'll be 74 years old, but I'll be going on 40, so I'll find something to do.
Okay, well, you've seen a lot change in this city.
Chicago history is not something that I took up in school, but it's something that I'm well aware of. I remember everything I won't say nothing negative about any politician, but I think that, yes, I've seen a lot of change in the city. And the one change that I seem to think is that we've grown, but we've stayed the same in a lot of aspects. I can only speak for me. I'm not speaking for anybody or any individual, but I think that, you know, we've just got to, let's not wait until Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Katrina, or Hurricane Irma comes along before we come together as a city and forget our different races, our different ethnic backgrounds. We should be able to come together before a catastrophe.
Right. Well, so funny you said that. So we were having this discussion at the dinner table, and that is, you know, we a country, we're going to step up and help, obviously, Houston. It will help if something happens with Irma. We'll also help. Katrina, we as a country will help. When Sandy happened, we will help. And the question is, why is it we have to wait for a natural disaster rather than, that's one. Two, you were alluding to it, I'll just be direct, which is I don't buy into the concept of a tale of two cities. I buy into the concept of a tale of two choices.
Okay.
And I think we got the differences about a set of choices that invest versus a set of choices that don't invest. And we got to invest across all neighborhoods in the city to give people a chance. And I kind of always measure it this way. If you're a kid growing up in Oak Garden, going to Carver High School, and you look at this city, this kind of what we think of the city in the sense of our buildings, our architecture, the lake, and these incredible city. If you think that's my home, nothing's going to stop us.
That's
but
right.
if you think that's a separate entity that's not really part of your future, it's not part of your life, we will never be what we can be. And that's a tale of two choices, not two cities.
I agree. Now, yesterday in school, I'm sure I shocked some of my classmates.
What did you do?
I asked the professor if it's okay.
Which class is it?
This was in nutrition.
Okay, you asked your professor.
Because we have some Hispanics in the class. So I asked him, was it okay if I stood up and made a statement that had nothing to do with the class? He said yes. And I told him that I would like to tell the dreamers, if it's any in the class or if you know any dreamers, that I, for one, agree and hope that you stay here and support you. And I'm sure that there are other good meaning Chicagoans that feel the same way, and maybe they just don't have the courage to say it.
Well, I think, obviously I've been clear. I think what the president did is absolutely wrong at every level.
You're pretty clear on what you believe in, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I think it's important. But I'm clear about where I am, but I'm also clear about listening and learning. That's one thing you got to do better. You always, as a politician, I do want to tell people where I stand. I think too many politicians shave. I think it's important to plant your feet down and give your view.
Well, you know, I don't agree with you 100% on anything. The only person I agree with 100% was God and my mother.
I don't agree with 100% of what
I tell you, I like you. I think you're honest. I think you're doing a job that's unimaginable. And you know, a lot of people just think, oh, I'm going to be the mayor. You couldn't give me this job. I mean, you know.
So you know what's funny? When I went to school, you know what I wanted to do?
What?
Child psychology. My dad was a pediatrician. So when I originally was supposed to go to school to be a dancer, and I didn't really want to do it. I know you don't laugh at that, man. Everybody laughs, but I had a scholarship to the Joffrey Ballet.
Okay.
And I didn't want to be a dancer, and I got enamored with child psychology. Now I used to go on rounds with my dad, who was a pediatrician, and I'm totally fascinated by, Erik Erikson, Piaget, the nature of early years, and that's why it's actually influenced a lot of what I try to do as mayor and from an educational standpoint.
May I say something?
Of course, Claude.
You are a dancer. You're dancing around these manfields in Chicago. You're just not with the Joffrey Ballet, but you're a dancer. You
think I'm wearing my tights? All right, man. This is Chicago Stories. We're with Claude Lamb, who is an inspiration.
Thank you.
I'm really glad you've clearly learned that it's important when you finally get your feet back underneath you to do something, make sure nobody walks where you walk, but they have a different path.
Right.
I want to thank you, Claude.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Nice to see you.
My pleasure, sir.
All right, man.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.